Here with me now, as promised, is Senator Adam Schiff of California. Senator, it's good to see you. There's quite a bit going on right now, so I want to talk to you about all of it. I just want to start with the polls because they're pretty consistent, and Trump is underwater on a number of issues. My theory, I just talked through this, is that part of that is his misread of what he called a mandate and just this massive overreach in a number of areas. But how do you see it?
I think that's exactly right. He's claiming that he had this huge mandate, which of course he didn't have. But more than that, they keep saying that he's just following through on his promises. But in fact, he's not. His main promise was he was going to improve the economy. He was going to bring prices down. Of course, everything he's done has been contradictory to that. The tariff wars have just driven inflationary pressures even higher. American families are struggling even more. So really the central promise he has reneged on. And now he's doing all these other things that he never promised during the campaign. In fact, to the degree that they were written about during the campaign in Project 2025, he tried to run away and disavow them. So he doesn't have a mandate to do what he's doing, and I think it's reflected in the already enormous voter dissatisfaction in his first 100 days.
Yeah, people are just starting to feel the tariffs. They're going to feel them a lot more, which I imagine is going to be worse for him. We'll see what he does. One of the numbers, or some of the sets of numbers that were very interesting to me, were around immigration. And one of the ones that stuck out to me was the approval rating for his handling of the Kilmer Abrego Garcia case, which is very interesting because a lot of people, I feel like there was some commentary saying we shouldn't talk about it or it shouldn't be front and center. But only 31% of people have approved of his handling of that, which is, I think, very telling. What's interesting about him, and I mentioned this too, though, is that when things like that are clear in the polling, he still goes a step farther. I mean, he arrested a Judge Hannah Duggan in Milwaukee this week. He had arrested a former judge in New Mexico this week. It feels a little bit like he's still escalating on the immigration front, even when the polling is telling you something different. But what are you seeing about his actions out there? Yeah,
I was struck by that on the polling, too. There were a couple of things that leapt out at me. One was just how poor his numbers were in the handling of that case, because you're right. There was some saying this is a distraction, we shouldn't go there. But this is, to me, the tip of the spear in terms of his violation of the rule of law, basically ignoring a court order to facilitate the return of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, who was, by their own admission, deported in error. And so the fact that his numbers are so terrible on that means, the public is understanding the case, finds it important, doesn't agree with what the president is doing. And that case, I think, and others, including now we're learning about him deporting, or the administration deporting, a 4-year-old with a stage 4 cancer without giving the family a chance to keep that kid here, U.S. citizen, get the necessary treatment. The other number that really stood out to me, though, was by a 2-to-1 margin, 50-21, people think that he has made their economic circumstances worse rather than better. Those are really damning numbers. But even more broadly on immigration, what concerns me gravely, because now they're using courthouses as a fulcrum for immigration policy. They're using the IRS to enforce immigration policy. They're taking people's appointments with immigration to turn around and deport them, even when people go to get their citizenship, take their citizenship oath. What that's going to mean is fewer undocumented people willing to go to court. And most of the time when undocumented people go to court, they're not the defendant. They're the victim or they're the witness. So they're not going to participate in the justice system. Why file your taxes if they're going to use your taxes against you to deport you? So it's going to mean a lot of people aren't going to be paying their taxes that would normally be paying taxes. People aren't going to show up for their immigration appointments because they'll fear they're going to be used to just grab them instead of whatever process they're in. So it's going to mean millions of people going deeper into the shadows, which is not in the interest of law enforcement or tax collection or society. So in the bigger picture, I think it's a real mistake.
I've never thought about it exactly that way. It's interesting how it deters people from participating in aspects of the system, paying taxes, and again, going to courts when they need to be defended themselves. The arrest of the judge in Wisconsin, again, not isolated, felt jarring. I know that we should be jarred by too many things these days. Do you think? I mean, you've done the studying of Donald Trump for a long time. Is that to scare people, to deter judges from doing what their job is? What do you think the motivation is behind that?
I think it is.
Yeah.
In a normal, rational world, you would have immigration authorities work with a courthouse and decide, okay, how do we work together, or how do we at least not interfere with what each other are doing? You wouldn't have the kind of confrontation and arrest that we saw. But the administration relishes this. They relish the opportunity to go after judges. They relish the opportunity to try to intimidate and shock people. They talk, just gleefully about impeaching judges they disagree with. So it is part of a broader assault on the rule of law, a broader effort to intimidate. They're intimidating the universities. They're intimidating the law firms. They're intimidating corporations, forcing them to come hat in hand begging for exemptions from tariffs. And now they're trying to intimidate the judiciary as well.
No question. I want to ask you, I mean, you were the lead impeachment manager, of course, as we all know, for Trump's first impeachment trial. We all followed it very closely. You were on the January 6th committee. I know this is maybe not your favorite topic, but one of your colleagues, Senator John Ossoff, said at a town hall that Donald Trump should be impeached, basically saying his conduct this term has, quote, already exceeded any prior standard for impeachment. I mean, the legal justification. Obviously, a lot of what he's done is horrific, but what do you think? Has it exceeded that bar?
Well, I really think we should not be talking about impeachment. We should keep our sole focus on protecting our institutions, the rule of law, and winning the midterms. What we should be really trying to do is not just make the case against Donald Trump right now in terms of the midterms and retaking the House and Senate, but also making the case for ourselves. I don't think it's enough, even though he's doing this terrible job, to rely on presidential self-destruction. The thing that poll did not indicate is, what are the Democrats' numbers?
Yes.
And so I think we need to be focused on our own numbers as well, and making the case for how we would be better stewards of the economy, how we would not engage in this reckless tariff policy. Seeing today the Treasury Secretary say their tariff strategy is strategic uncertainty. What the hell is that?
What is that? I don't know.
With tariffs, you want to be certain.
Yeah.
You want to have some certainty, some predictability. Uncertainty is the worst. So, but I would love to see Democrats out there advancing our own big ideas. For me, it would be a housing boom. I'd love to see, in the same way Eisenhower built highways and roadways, the Democratic Party be the party of building housing, massive new amounts of housing to bring housing costs down and address homelessness and expand Medicare, ideas like this that I think we need to be out there raising our own profile and positives with the public.
I think a lot of people are happy to hear that, and that's one of the issues that probably hasn't gotten enough attention. We're going to take a very quick break. Senator Adam Schiff is sticking around.